Hi guys. So today I'm going to be splitting this video into two parts. um, so the first part is going to be like a quick wrap up of what I've been reading, like an update kind of format, and then the next part will be a book haul. Woohoo! So yeah, I did recently acquire a few books in the mail and also while shopping. So I thought I would show you those. So yeah, just your good old-fashioned book haul. So the first books I'll start out with is a trilogy that I reread. This is a young adult fantasy trilogy. Sort of starts out as like a steampunk trilogy, quickly evolves into like a fairy fantasy. It's set in Scotland. So without further suspense, it's called the Falconer trilogy. So this is the first book. I also really like these covers. I mean, it's your classic young adult girl with knife or girl with sword imagery that we've all seen before. But this book came out in, let's see, if I had to guess, okay, my guess is going to be 2015 or 2014. 2013. I was wrong. So yeah, this came out in 2013, I think is what it said. I've already forgotten. This is the first book, The Falconer. So basically, this is a young adult fantasy that when I reread, I didn't love it as much as I did when I first read it, but I still enjoyed it. Like, I think this was a solid pick for however old I was then, me. High school me. A solid pick for high school me. So basically we follow a girl who hunts fairies by night, but lives in, I think, Victorian England, or not England, Victorian Scotland in the day. So it has like a historical element to it, which was enjoyable. But at night she's trained by this one fairy who also kills other fairies to hunt down fae creatures because one of them killed her mom. So she's kind of on a quest for revenge. It was really fun. Again, definitely kind of young adult leaning for sure, but I still enjoyed it reading it back. So yeah, the first book I would say has the most steampunk and historical aspects to it. So yeah, that's the first book. And then the second book is called The Vanishing Throne. Another pretty cover that I also like. I think this imagery is just really pretty. So in the second book, you start to explore more of like the Fae realm aspects. There's like a glossary in the back that has like definitions of the terms. I don't know if the author is Scottish or not. She moved to Scotland, has a PhD in social anthropology, currently resides in Edinburgh. So yeah, definitely knows a bit about the Fae in Scotland because it reads naturally. But yeah, this is the sequel. Again, like I said, this one does, explores more of like the Fae realm in this world, which was really interesting to read about. So yeah, this was an enjoyable sequel. It's definitely not too light. Like, it does have some dark themes, but dark for young adult, if you know what I mean. So still serious themes, but the pacing is really fast, which I actually really enjoyed. I'm not really like a plot person, but I like that this series doesn't really linger too much on parts where it gets boring or it's not like overburdened with description. I feel like some young adult, like an instant turnoff for me is when like the author either monologues too much in the main character's head or just lingers too much on description, and this one's plot went like at a good speed. So yeah, it's the second one. Oh, I did notice when I was reading these, I took off the dust jacket, and each book has monograms of a monogram of the main character's initials. So her name is Elena Cameron, I think. A very young adult name, but it fits her well. There is also a romantic aspect in the story between her like fae mentor. So I guess if you like mentor mentee dynamics, like this does have that, but yeah. So that's the second book. And then the last book is called The Fallen Kingdom. So yeah, this is a trilogy. Here, let me get this out of the way so it's not really in frame. So yeah, this is the final book in the trilogy, The Final Kingdom. Each book leaves off on like a pretty big cliffhanger for the series, so I enjoyed that as well. It felt like it brought me back to the old YA fantasy vibes that I'd forgotten. But yeah, I would say like if you're looking for like a solid young adult fantasy, this is not a bad one. It's definitely a little dated, but not in a bad way, I would say. So yeah, that's what I've been reading recently. I was rereading that trilogy just because, I don't know, like it popped into my brain and I was like, you know what, I haven't read that in a while and I wonder if I would still like it. And I did. So I just realized I'm trying to put a dust jacket on a book that already has a dust jacket on, and that's why it wasn't working. Okay, and then now onto the haul portion of this video. So the first book I got in the mail is one that I'm sure a lot of you will recognize. It's The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. This is the last book in the duology, that is the spin-off duology of the Cruel Prince series or the Folk of the Air series. I have not read this duology, but I did read the Folk of the Air series, and I enjoyed it. Like, I understand. I get it. It's not what I would say my favorite, actually, especially even by Holly Black. I would say my favorite Holly Black book is always The Coldest Girl in Cold Town. It's a vampire story. I think I've talked about it before on here. I can't remember. But it's a vampire urban, gothic urban setting. It's just so good. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe I'll talk about it at a different time, but so good. That's my favorite Holly Black book of all time. But I still liked the Folk of the Air series a lot. Like, the characters are just kind of iconic at this point. And so I did get the Fairy Loot editions of the sequel, or not the sequel, but the spin-off duology. So this is The Prisoner's Throne, which is the last book. I think the first one is called The Stolen Heir. So it has, it's very bright. It has golden sprayed pages, if you can see that. I'm not sure if you can. Golden sprayed pages and a different cover. Like, the normal cover does not look like this. So yeah, let me adjust the lighting real quick, see if that's the issue. It's a little better. So yeah, really pretty cover. So I got that in the mail recently. That's the last book I have for the last book I have for the Cruel Prince series. I don't think I'm collecting any more. I have a full shelf of those books and I don't need any more, nor do I want more. My collection is complete. I'm calling it there. And then the other book I got in the mail is from Goldsboro, and it's a fantasy called The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. Wow, you're just going to see that light no matter what I do, huh? But yeah, The North Wind. I don't know much about this book except for that it has stenciled pages and that it's a fantasy book. I think it's an adult fantasy. Inspired by Beauty and the Beast and the Myth of Hades and Persephone. I've actually seen the paperback edition of this around at like Barnes & Noble and stuff, but since I knew I'd ordered it from Goldsboro, I was like, hold off. You'll get a hardcover soon. You do not need 2 copies. So yeah, this finally came in the mail, and I'm very excited for this because it gives like, obviously with North, it gives like snowy vibes, which I love in a fantasy. And then I love Beauty and the Beast and also Hades and Persephone. So all those elements came together and I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. So I'm excited to read this. Plus I hadn't heard that much about it. Not that other people haven't read it yet. I like going into a book not knowing a lot, so I kind of try to avoid people talking about it, which might be semi-ironic since I'm talking about books and sharing them with you. I don't know, but I'm very picky with who I like listen to on book recommendations, so I understand if you don't like to know much about a book before going in, because I'm the same way. So yeah, I got that in the mail. And then this last book I actually picked up at a local indie, and I was directly influenced by, speaking of being influenced by someone, again, I watch Reagan from Prue's Project. I've been watching her since like 2014, 2015. And she recently like did a marathon read of all of Emily Henry's books. She predominantly reads fantasy like me. We have very similar tastes, I would say. So a lot of my TBR books actually come from her in her videos. But I just respect the way she reviews books, and I like her taste. If you ever watch her videos, she's so good at like giving you a quick synopsis of a book, way better than I am. But yeah, to not go on a tangent, she recently had like a mini like romance read. She said she like will want to read romances like usually like once a week in summer, and that's like all she reads. And I kind of agree. Like, I don't read a lot of romance, but when I do, I kind of like binge read it. And since I reread The Love Hypothesis, it's like been kind of on my brain. And so she, anyways, I'm so rambly today, so sorry. But she recently did a marathon of Emily Henry books, and she read one called Funny Story, which I knew would come out because it's hard to be in any kind of online book space without seeing people talk about Emily Henry. And for good reason. Like, I've heard her books are really good. I did read Beach Read by this author, and I've read some of her, like I said, young adult, which I talked about in my last video. But the only adult book I've read by her is Beach Read, and I gave that like a 3 stars, I would say. It was fine. Like, it wasn't my favorite, but the premise of this one just sounded so interesting, and Reagan loved it, and we do have similar tastes, so I was like, you know what, you've convinced me, so here's me giving Emily Henry another shot. Basically, just to keep it succinct, this book follows 2 couples who are both planning to be married, I believe, but then her fiance and his fiance were like childhood best friends, and they realized that they loved each other, so they dumped their partners and like got together. And since they're in like this small town, she doesn't really have anywhere to stay, the main character, so she ends up rooming with like her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex-boyfriend, if that makes sense. Kind of a hard one to describe, but I just thought that was such a funny premise that I was like, I would love to try that. And Reagan loved it so much that I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. So, plus it had one of those stickers at Barnes & Noble that was like $5 off. I was like, well, it's $5 off. It was meant to be, obviously. So I'm kind of using this as like a test to see if I can like any of her adult books, aside from Beach Read, since like I only gave that one like a 3-star. If I end up loving Funny Story, I'll keep going and maybe I'll try a few of her other adult romance books. And if I don't like it, then I think I might just stop there, you know, like I've given it a good shot. So yeah, not to put that much pressure on this book, but it's carrying a lot of weight for my future TBR. So yeah, those are the books that I recently got. As a small aside, I did get approved for like a NetGalley arc. If you don't know, NetGalley is you can like review early copies of books on there if you're like a librarian, or I think sometimes they just let people, like a certain number of people, read certain books free. But I started doing NetGalley arcs a few years ago, I would say. It's not too hard, especially since they do drops of like, you can read this for free if you go on there and you build up your like, you turn in your reviews early and all that kind of thing. Publish your reviews to like Amazon and stuff like that. Publishers might keep sending you early copies of books. I honestly don't really love reading books early. I feel so much pressure to read it and like view it from a critical standpoint that I don't always enjoy it as much as I would if I just picked it up when it releases. So I don't know, I always go back and forth on whether I enjoy doing that or not. But let me see if I can show you the cover of this book that I picked up. I just turned it off. Okay, there you go. It's called When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson. And Jandy Nelson wrote a book called I'll Give You the Sun. And it's one of my very favorite contemporaries I've ever read. It's about twins, and it's queer, and it tore my heart out. And again, like I'm kind of more critical or picky with my contemporary, what I like. And I'll Give You the Sun was it's a very dear book to me. So, and she hasn't, I don't think to my knowledge, she's published anything since that book, and that was a while ago. So it's been a hot sec since she's come out with a new book. So when Jandy announced When the World Tips Over, I was like, I must get that book. And then when it popped up on NetGalley, I was like scrambling to request it. So I do plan on reading this soon. Very excited to give you my opinions on this. I don't know what it's about. Again, like I kind of like going in blind, so or going in not knowing anything. So yeah, I'm intrigued to find out, and when I finish it, I will report back. So yeah, that was it. Kind of a mixed haul. You got some fantasy, you have some contemporary, some young adult, some adult, but yeah, that's about it. I filmed some footage shopping at like a Half Price Books, and I was thinking of doing like a voiceover vlog. I've never tried that before, but we'll see. So you'll probably see this video first, but then I'll try posting that one if it all works out. If not, then pretend like you never heard it. I never said anything. So yeah, but that's it. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And I hope you have a good day, night, or whatever time it is there. And I will be back soon. Thank you.